Hello, welcome and welcome back to the United Mates Football Podcast. As ever, I'm joined by my co-host Joe, and we are both thrilled to have a special guest with us on today's call. He's the founder of CroatianSports.com, where, surprise, surprise, you can follow all things Croatian sports. But more so, he's personally known from this endeavor for his all-access interviews with sporting legends like Davor Šuker from his beloved Croatia, Harry Redknapp from Joe and mine's native England, as well as a whole list of NBA stars over here in the States, where, like myself, today's guest resides on the West Coast in Southern California. We welcome Ante Kvartuč to the United Mates Football Podcast. Ante, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for being our guest, and how are you doing today?
Thanks, Kai. Thanks, Joe, for having me. Appreciate it. I'm doing well here in Los Angeles, and then big props to you. You got that tough Croatian name correct there. So you're already scoring well with the Croatians.
Yeah, I didn't have much faith in myself actually to replicate it after I said it properly a minute or two ago, but it worked out.
I'm happy you did that, Kai. I don't know if I would have done it so well, but Ante, thanks for joining us today. And whenever we have a guest on our podcast, we always start the episode with a bit of an icebreaker question. So what we've seen, Ante, is in the build up to the infamous Croatia-England semi-final back in 2018, you posted an image basically allowing people to give a note to their boss or their teacher on how they could get out of work on the day of the big game. So on that literal note, what would your ideal sick day look like?
My ideal sick day, I would take an ideal sick week if I can bump it up that way. And since I'm in LA, and I've talked about this with my mates, and it's it's our European treble as a supporter. It would be flying into London, seeing a Premiership game in London, maybe going to Germany midweek for a Champions League game, probably Dortmund, see the yellow wall, and then probably flying back to Manchester, going to a United game. You know, from what I know, United are the true supporters of Manchester. I'll let that go up to you guys, but I would call it a sick week, and we've talked about it. And it's going to happen. I just haven't done it yet.
Oh, sounds like a great sick week. I'm sure I'd enjoy that too. But Kai, if you were planning a bit of a Ferris Bueller inspired day or week, maybe, what would it look like?
I kind of similarly, football related. There's a park near me that I recently discovered that actually there's a hole in the fence, and I didn't need to keep climbing over the fence every time to get in to play football, but it's kind of fun for this nostalgia at this point. But yeah, there's a park that I like to go to, and it has full-sized goals, and I just stand there and I put my camera up and I just film myself taking shots like an absolute loser, and inevitably like 1 out of 100 of them go in, but I enjoy it. Joe, what about yourself?
Yeah, again, I think it would have to involve sports. Maybe, I guess, sort of on the other side of things, I'd maybe come over to the States and watch some NFL games, some NBA games, something like that. But yeah, I think a sick day, sick week, it has to involve some sort of sporting activity or sport watching.
Absolutely. You come stateside when everything opens up. We'll take you to Vegas, and you'll get some bets on those games as well. We'll take care of you, Joe.
Oh, I can't wait. It sounds like a great trip ahead.
Yeah, Vegas. Wow. Now we're really planning quite a sick day, weekend, whatever you're going to call it. But I guess we did all seemingly gravitate towards sports on our sick days, and moving on to a few more personal questions for you, Ante, but sticking with sports. So to start with, I wanted to hear your origin story, so to speak, when it comes to your passion for Croatian sports, because obviously you've grown up here in America where domestic Croatian sports aren't necessarily televised. And in particular, given that football or soccer is seemingly your personal number one sport, and that here in the States, especially in the past, soccer hasn't been as big of a deal compared to American football and baseball and basketball. So basically, how did Croatian sports and football become such a big part of your life in the first place, Ante?
Well, it's even though, a little bit of my personal background is I'm the only person in my family born in the United States. So my parents and my all my cousins, my 2 brothers, they were born in Zadar, Croatia, the home of yours truly, Luka Modric over here. I'm wearing that Tottenham jersey, number 14 from back in the day, right before he went to Real Madrid. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in a very tight-knit Croatian community where, a lot of the, immigrants from Croatia, they came over because, the war in Yugoslavia and all the communism. And, they came over in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and I'm born here. So, I grew up in a Croatian speaking household. I only hung out with, Croatian kids until I was, 4 or 5, 6 years old, until public school. So, I mean, I'm Croatian cultured, and football is ingrained in us, and there's no secret there. I mean, that's our number one sport. But I go back to Croatia almost every year, go visit family, make my pit stops like we were talking off camera, going to Emirates for a game. But yeah, I'm as half and half as you would call. I mean, I'm definitely an American boy in LA, but we have a huge community here where we just do Croatian weddings and Croatian events, and it's a fantastic community. But there's also many Croatians in Canada and the US and in Australia that are second, third generation. They don't speak Croatian as well. They're English speakers first. And I had this idea where that population is not being catered to, back in 2008 when I created the website. And part of the reason I created the website is there was such an uproar after, I know this is a soft spot, after Croatia beat England at Wembley 3-2 to knock you out of Euro 2008. But that was since 1998, since as you boys know, we got third place at the World Cup in 98. We kind of didn't do anything until we beat England that day. So that was kind of we kind of peaked again. But that's when I started. And the fun fact of Croatian, there's 4 million Croatians in the country, but there's about 6 million out in the diaspora. So I'm catering to a large sports loving, football loving, tennis loving demographic. And that's the background on how I started the website and where I'm coming from. I'm not just an American boy that loves, Croatian. I'm Croatian through and through, but I would say, I'm as American Croatian as it gets.
Nice. That sounds like a real nice contingent of Croatians there. And you mentioned earlier, Ante, obviously Croatian Sports, your website covers all, football, tennis, basketball, whatever, you name it. But let's just focus on football for a second. And how do you manage to follow all the Croatian players playing across all the leagues in Europe? And how does your sort of affection to certain teams change over time, I guess, depending on where these Croatian players are playing?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I'm FotMob is my friend. It's my favorite app. So, this morning I'm on the West Coast, so I'm just getting alerts from, French Ligue 1 and the Premiership and all that. But, I got all the channels running. Weekends are big. Champions League, Tuesdays and Wednesday nights are huge. And I'm watching as much footy as I can. But I have a great team. This website is not just me. I'm the face of it. I have a separate buddy that I've collected that runs our Instagram. I have a buddy of mine that's a CMO of a clothing line here in San Pedro, California, and he does marketing for a living. He takes care of the Twitter. So we have all these different personalities and love for soccer, because you don't want to just hear what I have to say on the website and then it's regurgitated the same way on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. When we kind of get all these guys together, and I have soccer experts on Twitter, I call them my independent contractors. It takes a village. It takes a village. It's nice that you and Kai are doing this alone. If it was just you talking to yourself all day long, it gets a little boring. But I've met friends and I have a writer that just does the Croatian league in Florida, and we've met once when I was in Miami. He came down, drove 4 hours, and we had a drink, and we finally met in person, which was really cool. After he wrote for me for 5 years, so I'm building this kind of arsenal, pun intended, to of Croatian footy around the world. But it takes a village. And to answer your question about allegiances, don't have an allegiance to any one club outside of Hajduk Split, which is I don't want to talk about that today. But right now in the Premiership, I'm following Chelsea because Kovacic played there. Last year I had to follow Liverpool closer because of everyone's favorite Dejan Lovren. I have to follow Luton Town in the Championship because Simon Sluga is a goalie there, and it's and I have to follow Birmingham because Halilovic plays there, and they're going to get relegated they're going to get relegated probably. So it's Croatian players first. I keep, as an average fan, I keep track of the cities and the Arsenals and the Chelseas and the Uniteds, of course. But I have my list of my top 30 Croatians and prospects, and it's Croatia first with me.
Nice. Croatia first, although I've got to say, Ante, obviously you're wearing the Modric shirt, which as a Tottenham fan, I can appreciate. And I know, yeah, lovely shirt. Absolutely love it. And also, I know, Ante, back when Harry Redknapp was managing Spurs and when we had our great contingent of Croatian players, you presented the Croatia Hotspur T-shirt to Mr. Redknapp himself. So I know you don't have you've mentioned a few teams, but do you have a special soft spot for Spurs, given our recent Croatian heritage?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. We made the shirts. It was Croatia Hotspur, and it was a big hit. We just made them for a soccer tournament. There's a yearly soccer tournament in San Pedro, California, where Croatians from all over North America fly. We play 7-a-side. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's our Independence Day. So we said, hey, we're gonna get a couple local companies. They'll finance the shirts. We'll put their name on the back. But I had a graphic friend designer kind of put together that shirt. Big hit. Lo and behold, I get face to face with Harry Redknapp, and he goes, "Oh God, I can't wait to give this to Luka and the boys." Do I have a soft spot for Spurs? Do I have a soft spot for Croatia? Do I have a soft spot for Harry Redknapp? Absolutely. Harry Redknapp was one of the kindest, most genuine, I would say, professional figures I've ever spoken to. I waited for him like a little puppy. I must have been 22, 23 years old. I'm like, "Excuse me, Mr. Redknapp, can I ask you just a question about your Croatian boys?" He stopped everything he was doing. He was already done with all his press. He was walking to the team bus, and he goes, "For you, mate, I'll do anything." And that's actually when I asked him, "Do you want to hire or do you want to pick up any other Croatian players?" He goes, "We're looking at a Croatian goalie, Stipe Pletikos at the time, who you did pick up. He didn't really do anything for Tottenham. But FIFA.com ran that article as news breaking. That was one of the things that took Croatian Sports from a little baby basement blog to, now you're on the front page of FIFA.com for, a few minutes.
Definitely very jealous of all the access that you've had to the likes of managers like Redknapp and other sort of like sporting personalities. Sticking on CroatianSports.com, which I discovered was originally founded as CroatianSoccerReport.com. And you mentioned earlier that was kind of came about in the wake of quite a low point for England's national team when you guys beat us at Wembley to stop us from qualifying for Euro 2008. So on the note of memorable matches and sporting events beyond football, for instance, for better or for worse, what are some of the iconic moments from Croatian sports during your childhood that helped to kind of romanticize Croatian sports for you in general and ultimately inspire you to create CroatianSports.com?
Yeah, I'm a big sports guy across the board. I'm in LA. You have the Lakers here, you have the Dodgers here. Obviously, the MLS isn't a top 10 league in the world, and it just it's not quite there. All the actions in Europe. My favorite sporting event, and I've seen Croatia play here, like a few friendlies stateside. I was at the Euro 2016 game against Spain, where Perisic scored that last second winner against Spain for us to top the group. That's in my top three. But a story I want to share with you. We're going back to Croatia. We're actually going to go back to Hajduk Split, which is their mid-range in the HNL there in Croatia. But they probably have some of the best fans, and they have, as you should know, they have the oldest firm in Europe. Corsia, 1950, it was established. It was a Europa League second round qualifying match, the summer of 2012. It was August. It was a hot summer day. It was perfect. They were playing Inter Milan. Okay, Inter Milan's huge. Hajduk knew it was a packed stadium. You couldn't even go to the bathroom. People were in the stairways, in the exits. It was over capacity. Cops couldn't do anything about that. It wasn't going to happen. You stood in your seat. We knew we were going to get blown out. Hajduk lost 3-0. The whole stadium starts singing all our songs for half an hour. After the game, no one left. The players, Hajduk Split, after a 3-0 loss, come back out as a team like they won the World Cup, put their hands up, and sing with the fans for another half an hour. I just got chills right now. I've never seen that in my life. It was like they won the World Cup. They lost 3-0, and you have 45,000 fans singing in unison, and it was one of the most beautiful sports moments of my life. So, and I think that's why you guys love sports and footy. Sometimes it transcends the game.
I think Joe and I can speak firsthand, not to the Hajduk fans, but at White Hart Lane, there was a Europa League game between Tottenham and Dinamo Zagreb that we both went to. And I seem to remember Zagreb fans letting off flares inside the stadium and doing some very cool chants in unison, and it all being quite intimidating, but also impressive at the same time. And on that subject of sports fans, the mission of CroatianSports.com is uniting Croatian fans around the world. You kind of touched on that earlier as well, but how would you quantify the success that you've had in doing just that, uniting these fans? And then furthermore, what in and of itself is unique about a Croatian sports fan compared to, let's say, a sports fan from anywhere else?
Yeah, to touch on your first point of uniting Croatian fans around the world, like I mentioned earlier, there's more Croatians outside the country of Croatia than there are in. And I grew up in Los Angeles, going, oh, I know there's this community in New York. I know there's this huge 100,000 community in Toronto, Canada. I know there's a Melbourne, Australia, and Sydney, huge, tons of Croatians. And you kind of see videos and you start them partying and doing their independence, and you're like, they're us, we're all on the same page, but how are we going to connect to those cultures? And I think there's no easier way in life than to connect through sport. Both of you can come to LA, if Tottenham or Arsenal here for a friendly, and you'll just see some someone with a kid on, and you just bang right into a conversation with them. So I took it upon myself as a challenge to myself to kind of, can I unify all these communities? And I'm definitely happy with my progress. I mean, I had a guy, Jure Dragovic, he runs the Australian Croatian Federation down there, and he was on a business trip in LA. And I caught him basically between 2 hours, and he was like, let's just have a coffee and catch up. I like what you're doing. Like, he knows my face. All of a sudden I go, let me interview you. These are great questions, because they have the biggest Croatian tournament in the world. They have 5,000 Croatians every day for 4 days straight. They have 11 fields. There's a big cash prize. I haven't been to Australia yet. It's on my list. I would have gone this year if it wasn't for COVID. But because of that interview, Croatians in Chicago and in Frankfurt, Germany saw that and said, hey, Australia, can we send our club teams down there? And that's exactly what happened. So because of one kind of silly interview that I think 20,000 Croatians around the world saw, Chicago's like, I challenge you. We have the best team. And then Germany heard that, and the German team and Frankfurt said, no, we're coming too. It was the first time 2 non-Australian teams ever played in that tournament. And that's kind of the beauty of what I'm about, is just kind of connecting everyone in this digital age.
You mentioned the fans in the States wanting to go over, the fans in Germany wanting to go over and represent, their communities. Is kind of touching back to that second part of the question, is that pride, that sense of pride and passion, something that is kind of intrinsic within your typical Croatian sports fan, like I was getting at before? Is there anything different, or are we all just fans of the game?
We're a different breed, and the reason we're a different breed is, as it's we're a baby country. We just gained our independence in 1991. Nationalism or pride or patriotism, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I remember watching CNN here in the States as a 4 or 5 year old kid, with my parents crying because they're seeing what's going on in Croatia. On a sadder note, my dad's house over there in Croatia was completely destroyed in the war. The house I sleep in at my cousin's house in our village, which actually is probably 30 kilometers where Luka Modric grew up. They keep the shrapnel in their house as a reminder of what happened. We all lived through it. We all lived through that pain. We all kind of unified together. So I think it's very symbolic through sport, what we did in '98 at the World Cup. I think we just had something special. All those players, the Šukers, the Bobans, the Slaven Bilić's, as you know, they lived through a war. They had to play through a war, through communist Yugoslavia. And I think once you get to that level, once we kind of get that underdog mentality going up, I mean, it's almost symbolic what we did at the World Cup. We were down a goal in all 3 knockout, games. And, when Trippier scored that goal, I go, we're okay. We're still okay. And they just rallied. We have a rally mentality, and we as a people have a mentality that we almost do better with our backs against the wall. And it just transcended life into sports. And I think that's what's special about us. But I can meet a Croatian in Bordeaux, France, when I was there at Euro 2016, or a Croatian at a coffee shop here in LA, and it's just instant, like, where are you from? Oh, my cousin's from there. And it's such a small community, even worldwide. it's not like, oh, you're from London. Oh, where are you from? London? That's, it's a larger city. Being Croatian, we know all the same people, 2 or 3 people removed, and that's kind of what's special about being Croatian.
Nice. Yeah, no, it certainly feels like it's a very powerful community, and football, what a better way to kind of get everybody together. And actually, yeah, Croatia have done stupendously well in the last 20 years, basically throughout the whole history. But it's now time to play one of the games that we always play on this podcast. So this one is called Who Are Ya? And essentially what I'm going to do, Ante, is I'm going to give you and Keitel 3 players, and you have to essentially work out who the player is I'm talking about. And you'll work together. You can ask as many questions as you want. I'll give you one clue, and then we'll go. So for the first player, my clue is he's played for Dynamo Zagreb and he's played in the Premier League, but he's not Croatian.
Interesting.
Eduardo da Silva.
No, good guess, but not him.
Really?
I guess he would be Croatian, technically.
Yeah, I should add, and this is maybe an important point, this guy is definitely this guy is definitely Croatian in his heritage, but he didn't play for the Croatia national side.
Okay.
Did not play for Croatia.
Did he play for Crystal Palace?
He did not, no.
Okay.
Do you think of Mile Jedinak?
Actually, no. I was thinking of someone else I was thinking of another Australian player who might not have played for Palace. I think I just made it up. Okay. Is he Australian by any chance?
He is Australian, correct?
He is Australian.
I know, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Oh, is it?
It's
Did he play for Celtic?
He did play for Celtic. I think you're
Did he play for Leeds United?
Yeah, Keitel, you're onto it. You got it.
Mark Viduka.
Yep, Super Mark Viduka, who, of course, I suppose it's a bit unfair saying a non-Croatian because he's got Croatian heritage, but of course he represented.
See, you threw me through a loop. You went with Croatian, then you went with non-Croatian. Viduka's Croatian. Croatian. He's like me. He can play for Croatia. He can play for Australia. I thought you were gonna give me an easy one on that one. I'm like, Eduardo, come on. But that was well done on that question.
Nice. Yeah, no, Viduka played for Dynamo Zagreb for a few years, which I didn't actually know. Did very well there before his move to Celtic. But now let's go for the second player. So I guess, like a lot of players of this guy's era, he played his whole professional career. He's Croatian, but he never actually played in the Croatian league.
Okay, I have an idea. Did he play in an Eastern European league?
Did he play in an Eastern European league? No.
Okay.
What league were you thinking of?
Ukraine. I was going to say like Dario Srna.
No.
Srna played for Hajduk.
Okay.
He played for the Croatian national side 41 times.
Which league did he begin his career in if it wasn't the Croatian league?
He began his career in the Bundesliga.
Did he score the game winner at Wembley?
No, but you're right that Petric is similar.
It's not Petric?
No, but it's another.
It's not Petric?
No, it's another player of Petric's generation. So he's played in the Bundesliga. He's the next clue I'll give you. He's played in 2 other leagues in Europe.
Did he play in Scotland for Rangers?
He did not. No.
Oh, I thought maybe it was Dado Pršo.
So, oh gosh, this is stumping me quite a lot. Okay. What position is he?
He is a striker.
Started in Germany.
Petric's Germany?
Oh wait, I think I've got it.
I got it.
I think I've got it.
It's Klasnic. It's Klasnic.
Yeah, it is Klasnic.
Yeah, Ivan Klasnic. There we go. Yeah, no, he played.
That's so dumb. I'm talking to him on Instagram right now because he's coaching our U19 team, and it's just like it. Got me.
Yeah, I've got one more player for you, and he's not Croatian, this player, but my clue is, obviously the famous 3-2 Croatia-England game, this player has played with a few of the Croatians, but he actually came on as a sub for England in that game. Who is it?
Did he play with them at Spurs or at Portsmouth?
He played with them at Spurs.
Is it Defoe?
No, but he did. He technically is the answer. He came on as well, but this is another guy.
I was gonna say Defoe. So who else was on that England team that was on Tottenham? It was
Crouch.
He scored, but no, not him. He started the game.
Crouch started that game. Who came on? Shit. This is like 10 years old. These are great questions.
You wouldn't bring Ledley King on as a sub. Aaron Lennon?
No, not Aaron Lennon. But you're in the right team, I guess. I'd say maybe he's not that associated with Spurs. In a sense, he played for Spurs for a couple of years, but maybe that's not the first club you'd associate him with.
David Bentley.
Oh, you're so close with the name.
Darren Bent.
Yeah, there we go. Darren Bent. Yeah. Not the best England career, but he did come on that night apparently in the 80th minute.
Well, there you go. Who would have thought that Darren Bent's name would pop up in a round of Who Are You kind of related to Croatia? But
I know.
There you go.
Those are good Croatian questions. I'm gonna use the first two on my boys. Those are good.
I love it. Yeah, no, we'll repatriate the questions and see if we can stump some of your friends. Moving back to the Croatian national team, and you had already kind of mentioned the situation with the war and independence, but essentially since then, over the past 2-3 decades, the national team has had, a few ups and downs, but there really have been a couple of like monumental ups. The semi-final that they made it to, unfortunately, they couldn't make it to the final, but they finished third in 98. 94, they technically couldn't appear at because of the timing with independence. So it's quite impressive that at their kind of inaugural competition, they would do so well. What did that experience for the team, experience for the country watching back home, what did that do for the spirits of the nation, given that it was so fresh, the independence war, and then they're able to come in third place at a World Cup?
What did it do? Everything. I mean, it symbolically lifted an entire nation. That happened in 98. The war technically ended in 95, without getting into that. But I think it kind of signifies that, we are this, it signifies and symbolizes what we were all fighting for so long, that, we want to be independent. We wanted to run by our own rules. We wanted our own country, and to showcase in front of the world, in the world's largest tournament, where, over, I believe, 1 billion people watch the World Cup final. I mean, I've never seen my uncle cry before. He's this big, alpha figure, and, he was in tears, and I was, 12 years old at that time. But I remember my first kind of big Croatian sporting moment was that goal that we scored right in the quarterfinal against Germany, right after they got the red card, going, oh, there's some magic happening here. There's some magic. And I think, and, going back to 2018, to make a World Cup run, and England had that magic up to the semifinal. We have that magic where you feel momentum is a real thing. And I think coming out of the war and all that, I think you kind of feel momentum as a nation, just like you do in sports. And I think that really was the cherry on top of the cake, where it's like, hey guys, we've arrived, and this is kind of our prize for it.
I guess going back to that 2018 World Cup final team, it really has been the golden generation for Croatia. And you just look at the players like Modric and Rakitic, Perisic, Mandzukic, Lovren, even Cerna. Maybe Cerna wasn't there, but Olic, Eduardo. Loads of players over the last 10 years have been fantastic. How much of that pool of players is down to a well-run or well-strategized Croatian FA? Or is it simply down to a group of fantastic individual players? What do you attribute to the recent success of Croatian football?
I mean, you have to, if you're going through Croatian and countryside, thank you, Dinamo Zagreb, who was one of the best, youth academies in Europe. I mean, they're in, I wish they had more infrastructure and more cash. There's some funny dealings happening back home that, we'll need another podcast to go through. But, without Dinamo Zagreb and their youth academy, I mean, they've, if you look at an all-time Dinamo Zagreb team from the last 15 years and see who's on there, the Mandzukics, the Modric's, Lovren, we have Mateo Kovacic came from there. Eduardo was there. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing what they're doing. And it's if they were able to keep their players into their mid-20s, I mean, it's scary. They would be a Champions League team, but obviously because of, modern football and modern economics, you have to sell them. But I mean, I have a list of guys right here that are going to come out of Dinamo that we might even have a better generation than we just came out of, which is almost scary if we can put the results together on paper. But I mean, we have a stud U21 team, which probably would win the U21 Euro or World Cup. But the thing is, we're bringing these players up to the senior side. So I think it's almost a family ethic. I was raised just to kind of do the right thing, work hard. All these players that came outside of Croatia from the diaspora, the Petriches and the Rakitiches and the Klasniches, they grew up in Switzerland and Germany, but I'm sure they had the parents that had the same work ethic as us, kind of immigrant parents coming out. And then in Croatia, they even have to work harder. I've played on those fields out there, and they don't have the same, infrastructure fields that, they have in the Englands or Italy's or, United States or any of that. We just have to work harder. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And then, I'm sure you guys know Luka Modric's story. The guy was basically a refugee in the war, and his grandfather, who he was very close to, passed away in the war. And if he's a quiet guy, but if you don't think that fueled him, you couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah, I guess looking forward, we kind of look back at the 98 World Cup and then, touched upon the run to the final in 2018. We've got Euro 2020, which will take place in 2021 coming up. What do you make of the Croatian side's prospects for this tournament, and I guess kind of tournaments in the further future as well, given that, as Joe was sort of mentioning, this is kind of seemingly the end of a golden generation? Are the likes of Vlasic, Kovacic, and Pasalic good enough? And, these youngsters like Lovro Majer and Luka Ivanusek, even you mentioned earlier, Alan Halilovic, he's playing in England now. And I know there was another youngster, Ante Kvartuč, who, like Halilovic, once upon a time was very highly rated. Could players like that still come good on the potential that they showed earlier in their careers? Or if those things don't work out, are you quite concerned that the foreseeable future of the Croatian national team could be quite a bleak one?
No, not concerned at all. And going to Euro 2021 is, which I'm calling it, good on the rematch with England. That's gonna be a banger. That's gonna be a fun one. Modric has signed on. He's staying. We did lose Rakitic, which is big in leadership. And I mean, Jesus, what a penalty kick taker at the World Cup, just ice in his veins. We lost Mandzukic, but Mandzukic just got back for AC Milan. So can he pull a Michael Jordan and come back? I don't know. But the thing is, Andre Kramaric, who plays for Hoffenheim in the Bundesliga, he was a good supporting player at the World Cup, but we didn't really use him. But this guy is banging in goals left and right in the Bundesliga. He scored again against Bayern Munich today. He scored 4 goals in one game against Borussia Dortmund back in the summer. Bayern actually wanted to buy him. So we haven't even seen him at his full potential. We obviously lost Rakitic and Mandzukic, but Vlasic is a complete stud. He's the real deal already. Josip Brekalo, who plays for Wolfsburg, he's a winger. He's the real deal. We still have Perisic, who we haven't mentioned, who's our Croatian team has always gone as Perisic goes. And that's a rule. If Perisic is on, Modric is going to do what Modric does. That's no question. He's always going to run that midfield. But if Perisic is playing those wings and putting in deadly crosses and attacking on the left side, we go as he does. But you mentioned a lot of names. There's a Croatian name that I want to put on your radar that you did not mention. Red Bull Salzburg in Austria. He's 18 years old. He could very well, this is tough. You can quote me on it, but this is tough. He could be the next Luka Modric. His name is Luka Sučić. Luka Sučić. We've talked to him as well. He's cool, calm, collected. He has that Austrian kind of German mentality, very businesslike. He's very serious, and he knows what the ceiling is. So Luka Sučić is only 18, so he can't really play for our national team yet. It's still too young. But when Modric leaves, can Kovacic be who we all think Kovacic is supposed to be? I mean, all the Croatians think Frank Lampard absolutely ruined him. I mean, we have Vlasic, Brekalo, Kovacic. To answer your question about Halilovic, no, we've given up on Halilovic. Don't even mention that name to me. He's playing second division English football. We don't care. We have this left back, Domagoj Bradaric, who plays for Lille in France. They might be a Champions League team. This guy is a stud. We have Šime Vrsaljko back, who we mentioned Trippier earlier, who's been a bad boy lately with his gambling. But he's reclaimed his spot at Atletico Madrid. We're gonna make another run at Euro 2021. make another run. I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, Mark Ante's words. And it's very interesting to hear about this Luka 2.0 waiting in the wings in Austria.
Look at Luka 2.0, Red Bull Salzburg. You heard it here first.
Well, I hope he comes to Tottenham. We had a good history with Lucas in the past. So, yeah, sounds like an exciting player. But obviously, we've been speaking a lot about the Croatian football side players over the years. So we thought it was now time for the three of us to essentially work together and create the ultimate Croatian football team. So for each position, I'm going to provide you guys with a couple of options, and then we'll discuss the two players, and then we'll effectively pick our player of choice. So let's start with the goalies. I've got two options for you. I've got Stipe Pleticosa, the man who Redknapp told you about, came to Spurs for a match, and then Daniel Subasic as well. So Ante, out of Pleticosa and Subasic, is there a player that stands out for you there?
Yeah, this was a great homework assignment because we just did an all-time Croatia team 3 months ago. So this is fresh on my docket. So Croatia's never had a strong goalkeeper. They're pretty much all 1A, 1B, 1C. But guess what? You win 2 penalty shootouts in a World Cup, you get top spot. Subasic, who's an average goalie at best, great guy, average goalie at best. He completely fell asleep in the final in the second half with those Mbappe goals. But guess what? Only 2 goalies in World Cup history have won 2 penalty kick shootouts in the same tournament. Subasic is 1, 2018, and then it was the Argentine goalie, 1990. Only 2 guys. Fun fact.
Kai, would you have chosen Subasic?
Yeah, and I, on top of that, can't argue with anything that Ante said. So Subasic is the guy.
Nice, cool. So we've got our goalie. That's good. Now I've got a few options for the right back position. So we've got Dario Serna, bit of a Shakhtar legend. One of my favourite Spurs players of recent, well, maybe not favourite, but a very classy right back in Vedran Chorluka. And then, of course, Atletico's Veselko as well. So, between you guys, who's standing out for you there?
I would personally weigh in with Dario Serna just because he's just like, the guy was the captain of the Croatia national side for forever, even when there were players like Modric and whatnot in the squad. Serna was the captain. So yeah, he's my pick.
Nice.
My man Kai, look at you. Kai's doing his homework over here. It goes to Serna at right back. He was a captain. He could take free kicks. He really could be a right winger. We kind of put him as right back as well. Fun fact about Dario Serna during the 2016 Euro. His father passed away mid-tournament in the group stage, flew back to Croatia for 2 days, did the funeral, came right back to the team. I mean, that has to be, a tough time for him, but that's captain material right there. That's what goes to Serna.
God, yeah, that's impressive. And it's just another example of that national pride that Croatians have and, that duty to their country. Okay, so Serna gets the nod. I still love Vedran, but, I can't argue with that. So let's go on to the left backs now. And the two choices here are Daniel Pranic and then Ivan Strinic.
Well, Strinic was supposed to be our, he didn't make our top 4 on this one. He was supposed to be our Achilles heel during the 2018 World Cup, and all 11 starters, and that was our soft spot back there, and he delivered and bunkered down back there. We might be going out of position here, but we gave the left back position because we did a 3-5-2 formation. We're giving it to Mr. Robert Jarni on the 98 team, who was a legend. I mean, Jarni was one of the best defenders in the world at that time, but he kind of flew under the radar because defense, late 90s, but we gave that to Jarni.
Nice, okay.
Yeah, I would have said Pranic just because of the hairstyle and the moustache that he usually had. But it sounds like this legend from the 98 team is probably a better pick.
It was a deep reference. We're going back to season 1 on that one. It was a deep reference.
Very nice. Okay, we've got quite a few centre backs to choose from here. There's Robert Kovac, we've got Dejan Lovren, we've got Simonic, infamous Simonic with the 3 yellow cards. We've got Vida, scary Vida, Slaven Bilic himself, and then Igor Tudor as well. Who are the 2 that are getting in our team?
Kai, your turn.
He gets a lot of stick, but surely Lovren has to be one of them. Because of he was pretty solid. He was good in the World Cup.
He's not top 2.
No,
he's not top 2. No.
Well,
no.
Okay. Well, I'll go for Lovren for 1, and it sounds like that will probably get trumped. But for the other one, I have a soft spot for Simunic because I'm currently working on writing an article about a Serbian footballer, which is probably a dirty word, Serbia, but on this podcast. But anyway,
No, not a dirty word. Not a dirty word.
Marko Pantelic is the player that I'm working on an article about, and apparently there's a lovely quote from Josip Simunic about Marko Pantelic, which I was kind of reading an article about. So yeah, Simunic and Lovren, but it sounds like neither of them are going to be Ante's picks.
Yeah, we went with, if we're only going with one center back, we actually went with Robert Kovac on this one. Him with his brother Nico, who was captain. I mean, they're still on the same coaching crews. You know, they were coaching, Bayern Munich together and Eintracht Frankfurt together. There was a certain chemistry there. They were leadership 101. I think that's what you want from leaders on your team. And it's too bad they kind of played and featured on a team that wasn't kind of put together. But you put that leadership and maybe that defense, because Lovren and Vida, they're great when they're great. But I know you guys know all the Liverpool mishaps that Lovren had, and the media crushed him. And it's just like, what are you doing, man? But it would probably be Šimić 2.
Okay, let's move on to the centre. Well, we'll have a defensive midfielder. So there's three options. There's Niko Kovac, of course, brother of Robert. We've got Brozovic of Inter Milan, and then also Vukcevic as well. So who's going to be your defensive midfielder out of those three?
We did not put a CDM in this because we're just stacked with midfielders, but I'll take that in there. Brozovic hasn't even topped yet, but this guy, he's a holding six back there. He's a stud for Inter Milan, and I think you have to have that player behind a Modric, so Modric doesn't have to track back and defensively. But at the end of the day, at the end of his career, I think we're going to give that to Brozovic. Nice.
Okay, Kai, do you concur?
Yeah, I might have been tempted to go for Kovac, but Brozovic, you can't really argue with the just number of appearances. He must be one of the first names on the team sheet at Inter Milan, and you wouldn't think that given some of the other talented midfielders that they have. So yeah, I guess Brozovic, we're kind of just like flying under the radar. He's probably one of those players who, if you don't watch him every week, you might not appreciate what he does. But I can imagine that if you did watch him every week, you'd want that guy in your team.
Yeah.
And fun fact about Brozovic, he was one of the first people to lie down in the wall against Messi. It was on a Champions League game a couple of years ago, because Messi started going under the wall, and it was a Champions League game, and you see Brozovic go under and lie on the ground. You're going, what the hell is he doing? And it worked.
I guess maybe how like planking was a thing. Now we can just call that like Brozovicing. If you just like lie down on your
Now for the other centre midfielder spot, I mean, two of these guys in particular are outstanding. The other one's a great player too. But who are we choosing out of Rakitic, Modric, or Kovacic to partner and Brozovic?
Well, there's one name we don't even have to think about, which is Modric. Obviously, you win a Ballon d'Or, and you don't even have to do anything. Modric in the middle. Mr. Zvonimir Boban. You didn't mention Zvonimir Boban, who's a legend in Croatia. I don't know if you guys know he had the kick that almost symbolically started the war in 91. And still to this day, he'll go, I'll die for my country. I'll play for my country. I'll give everything that you had. But I mean, Boban was part of that 98 team. With that, you hear Šuker all the time, but without Boban, nothing happens. And then outside of Boban, we're putting Mr. Žuti is his nickname, Prosinečki, as a midfielder. Prosinečki is as Eastern European as it gets. He got subbed out of one of the games at the 98 World Cup. What does he do? Gets a pack of Marlboro Red, starts smoking on the sideline on the bench. Most Eastern European thing you could do at a World Cup.
You were going to say he just started like swigging from a bottle of vodka, but yeah.
Nice.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Right, okay. We've mentioned a few of these. We'll just finish off this team. So right mid, two options: Ante Rebic, another AC Milan Croatian, or actually an Inter Milan player, Ivan Perisic. Who would you choose out of one of those guys?
Perisic on the wing for me.
Yeah, Perisic.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Nice. Okay. Then at left mid, we've got a few options. We've got Kranjčar, Harry Redknapp's favourite, Nico, Babic, and also Xhaka, who was at Juventus and came on as a sub in the World Cup final.
Yeah, like none of those. We kind of went legendary status and kind of moved guys around. But I basically put Perisic on the left, Rakitic on the right, and then Modric in the middle. So all those guys you just named, I don't want any of them.
That's fine. They won't make the cut.
Sell.
Yeah, we'll trade it if we can. I would have gone for Babic just for a left footer on the left, but let's put wearing his jersey right now as well. Nico Kranjčar was always a nice left midfielder, so let's say Kranjčar maybe.
Nice. Tottenham Nico,
Yeah,
love
good.
it. Okay, finally, tons of strikers we've got, and you have to pick two of them. You guys can pick one each. We've got Mandzukic, Kalinic, Jelavic, Olic, Kramaric, Petric, Perso, and then finally the Brazilian-Croatian Eduardo.
Mandzukic has to be on there.
Okay, so Kai, you've gone Mandzukic. Ante, who's partnering Mandzukic up front?
This debate lasted weeks for us, and it's still not done. It's still not done. You automatically have to put Shuket up there. He won a World Cup Golden Ball. He scored the most goals at the '98 World Cup. That's automatic. Played for Real Madrid, played for Arsenal. So that's automatic. Now, Mandzukic was always up and down. What he did at the World Cup in 2018, I had an executive decision on this one. We went with Mandzukic. Okay, Mandzukic with Shuket. However, Eduardo never panned out. Thanks. Who is it? Martin Taylor, Birmingham. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks for that one. Broke his leg and that was it. He was definitely in the running. I mean, I think if Eduardo plays in 08, we win Euro. We beat Germany. We would have maybe we beat Turkey in regulation time or whatever, and then we played Germany again in the semis. Who knows? Whatever. We can talk about that.
I guess basically what we can see from this is there's been a lot of damn good Croatian players over the years.
Yeah, personally, as an Arsenal fan, that Eduardo one definitely hurt me a lot. There goes my dog making noise. Luckily, he saved it until the end. Yeah, otherwise, I would have been tempted to throw someone like Olic in there as well for just the work rate. I love that guy.
I mean, Olic is a workhorse. If you need a workhorse out there, you put him all day. But we call it on the website, we call him Ivica Olic goals, little kind of garbage goals in front of the goal, just kind of tap-ins, lovable guys, right place, right time. But you can't put him with Shuket and Mandzukic. I mean, what Mandzukic did at the World Cup was just unbelievable.
Yeah, what Mandzukic did do was unbelievable. For I think England fans, they wish they didn't have to believe the reality of what he did, because it ultimately meant that we didn't make it to that final. But oh well.
I was in Kerry, Ireland for the World Cup semifinal. And you know how that goes. I didn't have to pay for one pint that night. It was a good night for me.
Clearly, the Irish fans had gotten over, what was it, the time that Croatia destroyed them in the Euros, I think probably a few years earlier. I remember, I think Jelavic scoring and some others, yeah.
So usually our fans will get in fights or don't get along with, like, you know, the English, the Spaniards, the Russians are trouble on the road, countries like that. Croatians and Irish are brothers on the road. In 2012, I just had stories of going, we're singing their songs, they're singing our songs, we're drinking together. And I go, what the hell's going on? I mean, the Croatians and Irish are like this, and I don't know what it is, but we're just forever linked with them. So they weren't bothered by that loss.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to find a more passionate set of fans than the Croatians and the Irish. Just to finish up, we do have a couple quick questions, and this is kind of bigger picture, kind of like the macro Croatian football stuff. And essentially Croatia's influence in the world of sports obviously reaches beyond its own borders. And for a nation that's so small, relatively speaking, their sporting successes on an international scale have been incredible. I personally can remember Goran Ivanisevic breaking English tennis fans' hearts at Wimbledon all those years ago. And of course, Ivica Zubac is a 7-footer who's making a name for himself in the NBA more recently. We mentioned it earlier, the mission of CroatianSports.com is uniting Croatian fans around the world. So speaking of Croatians around the world, given that there are so many sports-mad Croatian communities around the world that you've mentioned before, what, if anything, can or should Croatian sporting bodies be doing to retain the most talented athletes of Croatian descent who end up, living and playing sports abroad outside of Croatia?
Australia and their direct Australian Croatian community they're just ahead of the wave, because they have literal Croatian teams. I think they have a Croatia Melbourne down there and a Croatia Sydney. So they actually have all Croatian teams that From what I understand, they went to the A-League, but before all these amateur teams were actually part of the first division down there. I would need some clarification, but they were, that's where you got the Vidukas who we mentioned earlier. Where do you think we got Šimunić from? Šimunić, which kind of sucks for the Australian side, is, he was in the Australian school. He was going to Australian footy, and at the last second he goes, nope, playing for my parents' homeland, going to Croatia. Same thing that happened with Rakitic. I mean, he grew up, he was on the Swiss, under 19 team, under 21 team. And then he's like, nope, playing for my homeland, playing for my parents' homeland. So same thing happened with the Kovac brothers. I don't know if they could have got into the Germany squad. It was a very good Germany squad, but the Australians are doing well. All the Croatians that are growing up in Germany and Austria and Switzerland, I mean, all that, they have the bandwidth there. They have what they need to further their football careers. And at the end of the day, 90% of them are going to choose Croatia over, Germany or whatnot. But we've been kind of weak here in the States. The only guy that's kind of hit home for us, but he played for the U.S. national team, and he's a good friend of mine, and he's an assistant coach with LAFC, is Ante Kvartuč. I think he's still the 4th or 5th leading scorer in MLS history. It was early 90s. He was at UCLA. He's still the only college player ever to play for the U.S. national team at the same time. And this is a different conversation. U.S. and footy development here is backwards how it is in the rest of the world. As it's kind of pay to play, and if you could be a good player, but you would have to fork out thousands of dollars to be put on a good team. But I mean, the national prides there, we have, the HNL is, we had 2 Champions League qualifying spots this year with Dinamo and Hajduk and Lokomotiva. Dinamo is throwing out players left and right. I mean, clubs around Europe are splashing 20 million pounds for these 20-year-old kids. Australia is doing their thing. We have to pick up a little bit stateside. But I mean, I was walking around Zadar in Croatia the day after the World Cup final, and these are all kids that are from this small country going, hey, I would love to play at the World Cup. I would love to, be on the world stage. And now they know it's possible because they saw Modric do it. They saw Mandzukic do it. They saw Perisic do it at the World Cup. And it's kind of like breaking the 4-minute mile. It's once it's possible, it changes everything. So I think that's what's kind of changed in the last couple of years.
We've spoken about the golden generation. They're coming to an end. Given there's a big Croatian community in LA, there's a big one in New York, even Toronto by the sounds of it. Do you think any of these players are going to end up in the MLS? And what will that do for the respective Croatian communities in the States and Canada if the likes of Modric or Mandzukic or Rakitic ended up playing for a team in LA or a team in New York or something like that?
It's huge. I mean, the Croatians would show up with their flags and their flares. We like our fire. We like our fireworks. Our nickname is actually the Vatreni, which there's no English translation, but it literally means fiery ones or on fire. So I mean, it's nice when we behave with our flares at as tournaments. But would the Croatian fans show up with their checkers for a headliner like Rakitic, Modric? Absolutely. There were rumblings that Modric was talking with Beckham to come to Miami. But guess what? When you're pulling the strings at Real Madrid and Real Madrid just signs you for another year until you're 36, you're going to do that. But I think he's going to take kind of an Andrea Pirlo kind of approach, play in Europe until he's 36, 37, and maybe swan song it in the MLS. But, I talked to a lot of agents, a lot of coaches right here. They're happy with the way MLS is coming, but I feel we need another boost of another Zlatan to come over, another Beckham to come over. It's kind of flatlined a little bit. I don't think the average fan is going to appreciate Modric. He's not a Zlatan. He's not a Beckham. But will the Croatians eat that up? 1,000,000,000%. Make it happen. Make it happen. Not yet, but make it happen. I want Luka to play in Qatar. That's what I want. I want his swan song to be in Qatar. But guess what? If your boy Kovacic at Chelsea doesn't show up, I want Modric to play till he's 45, and I think he can do it.
If anyone can do it, yeah, Luka Modric probably can. You mentioned, go until he's 45. I think if we all looked at him at the beginning of his career, quite a small, kind of awkward-looking player, I don't think any of us would have expected him to have the career and the Ballon d'Or that he's gone on to get. So, yeah, power to you, Luka, if you're listening, which you're not. But anyway. Yeah, spiritually, he's with us in the jersey that Ante is representing. That essentially, yeah, is all that we have time for. Oh, perfect timing. My dog. Give me just one moment.
Over. Final whistle. That's it.
Just before we do let you jump off, Ante, how can our listeners follow? Obviously, it's, croatiansports.com, but what are the other social media handles? And beyond that, do you have any goals or plans for croatiansports.com in 2021?
Yeah, world domination, don't we all? It's all world domination. One World Cup at a time. The website's alive and well, croatiansports.com. That's where my most craziest football pundits go. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Croatian Soccer. Twitter.com. Twitter is Croatian Soccer as well. As you know, Twitter's a crazy world these days, especially in footy. But you can follow us there. But come one, come all. We get some good banter with the English and the French fans. It's all pretty good. Everyone's well behaved. But appreciate the plug, and I look forward to your success in 2021. And we should definitely do this again.
Yeah, brilliant. Appreciate that, Ante. Looking forward to doing it again. Otherwise, on our end of things, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, please do follow us on social media so that you can keep track of new episodes, interviews, match recaps, and articles as they come out. On Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, we're at United Mates FP. And then look out for us and subscribe on YouTube under the United Mates Football Podcast. And that way you can put some faces to these voices. Until next time, everybody, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Goodbye.